Hey, deserving listeners, Love is Blind.
I need to be with someone who's got a big personality. You might not have noticed, but I've got a big personality. I know when to be serious, but life's too short for that. I don't want to be serious all the time.
Okay, so we haven't really seen much of Jeremy. We did see him in the end of the last episode where he was seemingly kind of messing with Matthew and then got on top of him. I don't know if I showed that scene where he was saying, I need to be cuddled by you or something. It was edited, so it's hard to know what was exactly happening, but it looked awkward. It looked weird. And Matthew was uncomfortable with that. And then now Jeremy is saying, I don't know if you notice, but I have a big personality. I don't know. Each to their own. It's funny, you watch this show enough times and you just think, uh-oh, this probably doesn't end well.
Being loud and obnoxious. You're dating.
Yeah, good day. Good day.
That's how my whole family was growing up. It was just chaos, and I hated it growing up. But as I've gotten older, I miss it. I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, little detail we'll make note of, that he grew up with a lot of chaos and didn't like it. Yeah. What does that mean? Was it really horrible and harmful, or was it just annoying to him?
Hi.
Hi.
Who am I talking to? I know who I'm talking to, actually.
Take a guess.
What's up, Sarah?
What? Why would you guess if you're not 100%?
I'm never 100%. I know who this is.
Okay, yeah. Why would you guess? Now, maybe Laura is up for the randomness or something, but yeah, it's a risk. We saw that. Oh, who was it?
You are lying right now. All I was saying is I don't like wearing regular crew neck shirts because it scratches up against my neck and I don't like that. It's almost borderline OCD in some ways.
When I was younger, I had OCD way younger.
Okay. I don't need to say it, but I'll say the topic sentence, which is that having a preference about your shirt's collar is not evidence of OCD. It's evidence of a fucking preference. That's all it is. If you like to have toast in the morning and you really look forward to having toast in the morning, and if you wake up in the morning and you can't find bread and you drive to the store to get bread so you can come home and so you can have your toast, that's not OCD. That is liking toast in the morning. Liking a collar of a certain feel is just liking a collar. It's a preference. Why do people have to use OCD? It is very upsetting to people who have actual OCD, because OCD is debilitating. It ruins people's lives. Stop. But then she says she had it, so we'll wait till what she says here.
If I'm in someone's messy ass house,
Yeah.
The last thing I want to do is cuddle up with you or have sex with you or do it. Absolutely not. It has been a huge point of contention in past relationships. I'm not here to be someone's mother.
It's a preference. You could argue a mild compulsion, I suppose, but it's a preference. I wish people would just say, I'm kind of compulsive about it, meaning that I can't control the urge. It will plague me. I have this uncontrollable itch that I have to scratch, which is I need to clean the house before I can have sex. That's what she's saying. It's not OCD. It's, I guess, maybe compulsive. But, yeah. It's almost like, ever since I entered the field in the 90s, I have been doing my part, my small, tiny little part, to try to raise awareness in our society about mental health and therapy and psychology in general. And as a collective, my field of mental health professionals have succeeded in raising awareness. And the lay public has taken to it, which is great. Then you get stuff like this, which I'll take in the trade, but let's start shaving off some of the silliness. Or we have to start introducing more of our language. Just say compulsive. Wow, you know what? I'm kind of compulsive. Well, let me give it. I'm kind of compulsive. So let's say Well, I'm similar. So I need my space to be organized. I'm kind of compulsive about that. See? Not so hard. Just say compulsive.
Very, very young. My dad would sing like a song to me before like I went to sleep. And like he would always sing like the We Three Kings song. Like we three kings, our glory and us, bearing gifts, we travel so far, fields and fountains.
So I actually recorded this song. I'll play 5 seconds of it.
Forever ceasing, never over us all to reign. Oh, world, star of wonder, star of night, star of royal beauty bright.
I actually love Christmas music. So I, one Christmas time, just recorded a bunch of Christmas songs that I like. Sometimes I put it on Spotify, but I don't know. I don't want to subject people to it. So yeah, I had fun with that one. Lots of percussion, lots of clapping and yelling. And I don't know if you could hear me in the background yelling. I was trying to make it sound like I was one big band because it was just me. Yeah.
I don't believe a word that comes out of any of these men's mouths. With Matthew, I'm feeling like hella goofy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I would imagine that you would really second guess everything, not only Matthew, but anybody. Especially the way it played out for AD, because she was really affected by Matthew's almost proposal, basically, is the way he was talking. Yeah, that would really mess with your mind, because you would think, well, if I hear this again, how would I? It felt very real. Now, I guess it still might be real, but I don't know. Let's continue watching.
Fucking idiot. You know what he said to me yesterday? He said, if it's not you, then it's nobody. The shit that he was saying yesterday, almost verbatim. Said it almost verbatim.
Oh.
Right. Okay, so her name is Amber. All right. Yeah. Well, again, as I said earlier, I hope AD goes to Amber and says, by the way, heads up.
And she doesn't know what's happening.
Right.
And it's not like I don't want you to talk to her, but the same explicit shit where I'm sitting here crying like a fucking idiot to you.
Yeah.
What are you doing? What are you actually doing? What game are you?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty easy thing to test out. You just go to him and see what he says. And unless he's got a damn good explanation, then you bounce. So, yeah.
Fucking playing.
Ugh. Fucking scumbag.
I don't want to be the one feeling like I'm really looking for love. And the boys just are playing like another football match.
Yeah, this is unfortunate that she's generalizing it. Now, might there be more than one? We don't even really know what's happening with Matthew, but if it is that, to generalize it to all the men here, and just all the men in general, so I'll use this as a jumping off point. We do this in all aspects of our life. When you go to a town for a couple days and you have good experiences, then we're much more likely to say, yeah, everyone in that town is great. You go to the same town, another person goes to the same town and has even just a couple bad experiences, and they'll, for the rest of their life, believe that everyone in that town is a piece of crap or whatever. I mean, not everyone's going to do this, but, you know, it's a tendency. And when it comes to dating, we do this as well. It's really tempting for us to generalize our limited experiences to everybody. And it limits us because it will, going either direction, right? If you are heading into a situation, well, the one situation that popped into my head was prior to becoming a therapist for me, and I guess halfway through graduate school, given my experiences with therapists and people in psychology, I'm 24 years old, right? And up until that point, all my experiences with mental health professionals were positive or neutral. And so I had a very naive picture of the entire landscape of mental health professionals. And then I ran into some people who I was working with initially who were not good people. At the time, I didn't really know that. I thought there must be something wrong with me, but it turned out that upon reflection, there was something very wrong with one of them, and they harmed me. So we can go either direction. We can be too naively positive, or we can be too cynical and jaded in the negative direction. And I'm not saying this because I just think that people should be right. I'm not being pedantic around that. I'm concerned about AD because I think that, well, one, I think that there's still a chance with Clay, who knows, or someone else on this show, and I would hope that she would give it a chance. Now, I wouldn't blame her if she's like, yeah, I'm not going to do this anymore. And even if there is someone on the show that I might connect with, I'm turning off. I can't do this. And then a month later or a year later, she dates again and she's open again because, she deserves to meet somebody.
Yes.
And that's what it feels like.
You just want to be able to say.
That you won. Like, Clay is somebody that I would 100% fall for.
Yeah.
Baller, life of the party, loudest one, athlete.
Yeah.
Like,
he's a work in progress for sure.
But he's open
Once
about it.
Yeah, he's open. He's very, very open.
Work in progress? What? And then AD's like, yeah, oh, absolutely. He's a work. What's that mean? It sounded like they understood what that meant. Is that like a cultural reference? Is that saying that I know of the cultural notion that men are basically like boys until you reform them. Women have to reform them. And there's all these jokes about that. It's really silly. Does it happen? Sure. But it happens in the opposite. And to be reduced, as a man myself, I have experienced that where people will just assume certain things. I don't get that anymore. Seattle doesn't really act that way typically, but in the past, or if I step outside Seattle, there's more of that. Like, what was something that happened recently? I think it was something like, one example, it's not really related, but I was taking my cat in. So, me and Stacy, we have dogs and cats, and I had a cat that was mainly my cat. And unfortunately, she had to be put down. It was for those keeping track, this is Michelle. Michelle is actually on one of the merch items. My cat wants to chime in, that shirt. Stacy actually painted that cat and then scanned it and then put it on a shirt. And when we went into the vet to consult about having the cat put down, the veterinarian kept talking to Stacy, even though I'm the one asking the questions and I'm the one mostly interested in what's going on. And the veterinarian just would take a question from me. I'd ask her a question because Stacy wasn't really asking questions. In fact, she might not have asked a single question. I'm asking a question, and then she would turn to my wife and tell her the answer because cats are associated with women, or I don't know. And so that kind of, it wasn't the end of the world, obviously, but in a vulnerable moment like that, for me, it didn't feel good. I'm like, am I a second-class citizen? Is it not okay that I have a cat? At the very least, like, bounce back, eye contact back to why are you talking to her? So, things like that. Or like, if someone came over to our house and attributed all the decor to my wife, that wouldn't feel good because at least half of the decor I'm very passionate about, So this notion of like men are always boys. Now, does it happen? Sure, I suppose. But also that I'm not a fan of just assuming. Like, one, what are they talking about? Now, they know Clay better than we would because they've interacted with him more. But what could they have heard that they would conclude, the two of them, that he definitely needs to change? And they have decided. And that's another direct point, another data point that AD might be an overfunctioner. I don't know, but it's just another tiny little tick in that column. But what did they hear? And also, like, but there's also a lot of, there are cultural pockets that believe that that's even like romantic. There will be people that will say, they sort of slot into those gender roles, and it feels romantic to them. It feels like the right. It's sort of like opening a car door for your wife. It's like it's like the Homer Simpsonizing of society, where the man has to be an underfunctioner to allow the wife to overfunction, and it's like giving a gift to your wife by being a child so that she can reform you. Or I don't know. Individual instances, sure, but to just generalize to an entire gender, they're not. Maybe there's something that they can point to, like he is irresponsible somehow. But even that, he's a grown man, so you want to ask him, is it okay if we were to get together, if we worked on that thing, or could I ask you to change that thing about yourself? It just has a real like infantilizing vibe while you're dating. I don't know, There's a lot of commentary I could get into right now, but I think I hit the topic sentences. What do you think?
He's a work in progress for sure.
But he's open about it.
Yeah, he's open. He's very, very open about that. Like, he kept saying, like, I'm not a good person. I don't feel like I'm a good person.
That's a red flag for me, but I'm such a fix-a-hoe that I would be like, it's okay, practice on me.
Okay, so then he says he's open about it. Okay, so maybe he's on board, maybe asking that he needs help with maturing or changing. I'm still not a fan. It's like, well, if you want advice, I'll give it, I suppose, but I'm not your mother. Figure your shit out. Like, if you have a goal, move towards that goal. You're a grown man. I'm sure you can figure it out. And what is it that he wants to change? And is it some sort of signal? So it's another aspect to it that in some cultural pockets, there will be men that feel like in order to remain a man, they have to exhibit certain markers that they're not like a woman, right? And one of the markers that I have observed that some men will attribute to women is that they're organized and mature. Men in some circles will be like, oh, I need my toys, and I need my guns, and I need my ski-doos and my truck and my video games. Real men aren't responsible. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I'm going off very little information. Maybe I would understand this conversation better. But anyway, it sounds like he's on board with that. So if it's consensual overfunctioning and underfunctioning, then I'm not going to fault anybody, I suppose. I wouldn't recommend that as a dynamic. But then we hear AD say, what's fix-a-hoe? What did she say?
Like, he kept saying, like, I'm not a good person. I don't feel like I'm a good person.
That's a red flag for me, but I'm such a fix-a-hoe that I would be like, it's okay.
And then she's saying that he keeps saying he's not a good person. And I feel like we didn't see that. I'm looking at my notes here. Clay, I mean, he was talking about his ego being very huge, but then later he was talking about how he knows that he needs to not give into his ego, but he had self-awareness around that, and he was self-aware and was reflecting on that, which was a positive sign. It's one thing to have that quality. It's another thing to have that quality and not be aware of it, right? And not to identify it as something that you want to work on. So maybe we'll find out more about Clay in the future. But then let me Google it. What's fix-a-hoe? I'm going to take a guess and say it has something to do with a pattern of codependency, but let's watch. Let me look it up. All right, so just Googling fix-a-hoe, maybe if I put hyphens, there's nothing. It's just a lot of stuff about yard work and raking and stuff. Was it fix-it-hoe? Was it fix-it-hoe? Let's Google that. Fix-it home. That's a lot of home repair. Urban Dictionary, right? Urban Dictionary. Fix it. When someone, most likely from the South, is about to do or complete a task. Okay. Maybe I need to turn on the subtitles.
You're open about that. Like, he kept saying, like, I'm not a good person. I don't feel like I'm a good person.
That's a red flag for me, but I'm such a fix-a-hoe.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Although I was spelling hoe wrong. Yeah, so maybe if I spelled it right, and there are hyphens. This is so nerdy of me. It's still a lot of yard work. Urban Dictionary. Fix-a-hoe, or Urban Dictionary. Captain Save-a-hoe. I can fix him, right? I can fix him, but I don't see any. I'm such a fix-a-hoe. Yeah, maybe it's a thing that's not on Urban Dictionary, or it is something that she just says herself. I don't know, but I think what she's saying is that she has a pattern of codependency, overfunctioning, which it is very interesting that it's. I swear, I'm not patting myself on the back, but on almost no information, I speculated that she was a codependent person. Remember that? I mean, maybe you did, and you're like, oh, you're going to find out. Now, maybe she's exaggerating, or I don't understand what fix-a-hoe means. Maybe that just means that she does really great yard work. I don't know. But if she is indicating that, and that is contextually what she's talking about. They're talking about Clay. They're like, oh, he's what'd they say? He's a project that they need to work on. Remember that whole thing with Jackie and Marshall about the project of fixing, anyway. And then she says, that's a red flag because I'm such a fix-a-hoe. And yeah, it's an over-functioning thing. It also could be related to the cultural pocket of masculinity that I was talking about. I mean, that can play a role at times where women will experience a 95% rate of underfunctioners on some level regarding the people that they date. And it doesn't have to do with their radar, who they're choosing among many, like even choosing at random, it tends to result in a high rate of underfunctioners. I'm trying to think what sort of cultural pocket would have that. I feel like I've heard from people about that. Well, like I said, toxic masculinity can play a role if the manifestation of that is the way I was saying earlier, which is that men feel like in order to be men, they have to remain childlike to signal that they're not responsible because, women are responsible. It's that whole Homer Simpson dynamic or the Family Guy. It's this well-worn thread through our culture that dads are allowed, really, to be like children, and women are expected to pick up the pieces, right? So I wonder if that's what they're talking about.
Without knowing what I look like. I can't move forward without knowing if you want an actual long-term fucking commitment.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say, hey, like,
To validate.
I'm 5'5", thick thighs, brown eyes.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that for you. I'm not doing that.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we'll see how those conversations. I'm guessing we're going to see those conversations. It'll be interesting to see. All right. Well, let's adjourn there for now. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really, really do.